So as we're transitioning speakers, I'd just like to introduce Tyler Fewings, who's a producer in Tilst, Manitoba, and he's going to be speaking on his CYL mentorship program. Tyler was born in and raised on the family farm in Pearson, Manitoba, before pursuing a post-secondary education at the University of Saskatchewan's College of Agriculture and Bioresources. Currently, Tyler is a watershed manager for the Grassroots Watershed Stewardship Organization, the Lower Souris Watershed Committee. Tyler and his wife, Amy, and their young children currently farm alongside Tyler's family, where they operate a mixed farm with a focus on the cow-calf enterprise. In 2018, Tyler was selected to take part in the Cattlemen's Young Leaders Program, where he was paired with mentor Scott Dixon. The Director of Livestock Services is a VP Hutterite Services with MMP. So please join me in welcoming Tyler. And I will, again, as we're transitioning, if you have any conversations following, please let's take them out into the hall. And if you are looking to register for your CCA or CEU credits, they are still at the back of the room.
All right, thank you, Mary Jane. Yeah, so this will be a bit of a presentation. It's sort of the producer perspective on the CYL program, I guess. It's not meant to just bore you with the details of my life, but I'd like to get some people aware of the program and maybe consider it for themselves. I had someone text me that said they were going to come over from their booth to the presentation, and I said, well, hopefully it's worth the walk. And luckily, he said he was right next door. So for anybody who's walked farther than that, hopefully there's some value here for you. So just an outline of the presentation. Basically, I'll give you some background on myself, a bit of an overview of what the CYL program is, what considerations I made when I applied, and a bit of an idea of what the application process entails. I'll give you a little rundown on the mentorship, some of the other opportunities that are out there within the program, and then go through a couple of the experiences that I had. So like Mary Jane said in my intro, we're from the Pearson, Tilston area, southwest Manitoba, where we farm with my family. This is my wife, Amy, and our two daughters. If you look close there, you'll see that there was a third one on the way. And I said to Amy the other day as I was trying to put this presentation together, either I underestimated how busy we are with 3 kids in the house, or I forgot what it's like to have a baby around. So we managed to squeeze it all in and put this together, and hopefully it works flawlessly. So short background, I went to school actually in Saskatchewan, just there along the border. Went to the University of Saskatchewan afterwards, where I got a degree in animal sciences and a minor in rangeland resources, I believe it's called. Both obviously production-oriented education. After that, I worked in the ag industry on kind of the crop side and animal side for a few years. Picture on the right-hand side there is a sale yard in Australia where I had the opportunity to work kind of in a traceability role there. And that was a really interesting experience. And after we came back from there, we ended up in Swift Current, where we worked for about 4 years for the Ministry of Agriculture in Saskatchewan there, and in a couple other roles. And basically when we decided our family was going to grow and we were going to have our first daughter, that we'd move back home to the farm. And like it was also mentioned in the bio, I work as well for the Lower Souris Watershed Committee. So that's a watershed stewardship organization in Saskatchewan. And if you're in Manitoba, you'd think of it kind of like a C&D or a CD. And that job's been great for a couple of reasons. One is they offer me a lot of flexibility, which has allowed me to do stuff like farm and be a part of this program. And as well, the interests really align well, I think, with cattle producer. So what is the Cattlemen Young Leaders Program? Has anybody here heard of this program before? Got a show of hands? Yeah, a few people. So the Cattlemen Young Leaders Program is is a program that's focused on mentorship and leadership development within the cattle industry. It started through the Canadian Cattlemen's Association, and it's open to young, not necessarily producers, just anyone connected to the industry who has an interest in the cattle industry, ages 18 to 35. So if anybody in here fits that category, I'd urge you to consider applying. And it's a national program. We use the term CYLer, I guess, basically because it's kind of a mouthful to explain what your role is. So there was CYLers in the program from as far east as St. John's and as far west as Kamloops this year. So it's a great opportunity to meet other people in the industry. So what you get from the program, if you make it in, is an opportunity to be paired with a mentor for the year and to try and expand your knowledge base. As well, you get a $2,000 travel budget that you can use for mentorship opportunity or that you can use to attend industry events or just further some of your interests. So you also get the opportunity to go to the Canadian Beef Industry Conference twice if you so desire. The first time for sure, because that's where selections process takes place. And applications are open right now for anybody that's maybe interested. So sort of why I applied, I was aware of this program having been around the industry for a while, and I knew a few people who had taken it, but I never really felt like there was a role for it in my life. I guess I didn't really see the value or where it could fit. And like I'd mentioned, I had a science-based, kind of production-based education, so my knowledge and confidence in that area is a lot stronger than maybe on the business side of things, and I was starting to realize that a little more and more. And it sort of dawned on me at some point a couple years ago that maybe I could use this program to sort of broaden my knowledge on the business end of things. Hence the title, Filling the Gaps. So what's the selection or application process? Basically, you apply, you go online, find their application form, and you fill it out. It's a mix of who you are, where you're from, what your interests are, and then there's a series of essay answer, long answer questions about industry opportunities, challenges, what you see, what you do. And those applications all get sorted through, and they invite, I think it was about 25 or 26 finalists to come to the Canadian Beef Industry Conference. So the year I did that was in London. I'll talk about that in a second. And there they review, they do roundtable sessions. So the picture on the right there is an evening reception where we all kind of walked into the room not knowing a single person and got to meet some of the sponsors that you see on the board there, as well as judges and other CYL applicants. And then this following day was about a 5-hour session of roundtable discussions talking about industry challenges and some opportunities and just trying to voice your opinions, I guess, effectively and hope that the judges recognize some value there and that you get chosen to participate in the program. So luckily enough, I did make it through the process and so was awarded a mentorship opportunity. And like I'd mentioned, my goal was to sort of focus on business and financial side of the farm operation. And I was paired with Scott Dixon from MNP. He's based in Red Deer, and like she was mentioned earlier, he's the Director of Stock Services and Hutterite Services. And these are just a few of the topics. I won't go through any of what I learned because it may or may not be that interesting to you, but some of those topics up there were sort of the roadmap ahead for what we were going to tackle over the course of the year. What we did was we set up monthly calls, or at least tried our best, just to catch up, answer some questions, focus on what was going on with me and how he could help. And then we did manage to squeeze a couple in-person visits in the year as well. I made it out to Red Deer, I'll mention that in a minute, and then he was able to actually swing by the farm on a quick trip through. Unfortunately, it was in May, so we didn't have a chance to sit down and talk too much, but I did have him throw some bags into the corn planter for me. So other opportunities that are in the CYL program besides mentorship, though, obviously the chance to go to the Canadian Beef Industry Conference a couple times. If you're interested in the purebred side of the world, judging opportunities. A fellow CYLer was able to judge a class at Farm Fair International in Edmonton, the year of our program. A couple CYLs get invited every year to attend the beef value chain roundtables in Ottawa, where they sit down with government and industry reps to talk about some of the challenges in the industry. Not something I did, but something that would be interesting. There's also a couple of competitions within the program. So once you're in, if you'd like to try and attend the National Western Stock Show in Denver or the International Beef Alliance meetings, in our year that happened to be in Brazil, there was a couple of competitions that you could take part in and try to get an opportunity to go there as well. Spring Forum took place in Calgary for us, and that's a CYL-only event. It's the only time other than at the Canadian Beef Industry Conference where all the CYLs do get together. And then there's numerous other opportunities. I know of at least 2 or 3 CYLs who had career changes happen while they were in the program and largely in part to the program. And even something as silly as we would get emails for opportunities that would pop up. Cattle producers that were nearing retirement age that had established ranches somewhere in Western Canada that were looking for a young, enthusiastic producer to come and work with them and maybe transition and take over the ranch. So anybody looking for that sort of thing, you never know what could present itself through the program. So like I said, we went out to the CBIC in London. That was our selection year. Basically, it was a 3-day conference, and then our selections process took place on the first day. The group photo in the bottom is CYL group, as well as the Young Cattlemen's Council group, and that's another youth program offered through the Canadian Cattlemen's Association. They do industry tours and all that sort of stuff, like a lot of conferences do. And the keynote that year was Rex Murphy, so he was really entertaining, and I encourage anybody that has a chance this afternoon to go catch him. So I mentioned there's a $2,000 budget that you can use as a part of the program. So I'll just give you a couple ideas of what was used for in my case and in others. I attended, but probably would have or considered anyway, but the Manitoba Beef Producers AGM and the Manitoba Forage and Grasslands Association's Regenerative Agriculture Conference. We were invited, we being the Manitoba CYL and YCC candidate, to a Manitoba Beef Producers Board meeting in Winnipeg, where we got to have a half-day discussion with them about challenges with youth in the industry, as well as some other topics, and that was sort of an interesting experience. Last year I was able to attend Ag Days, and through my mentor Scott, got to sit down with some of the guys at MNP for a couple hours and pick their brains on some of the topics that I was interested in. And then a large part of my $2,000 budget was spent to go to the Alberta Beef Industry Conference. Not that that's a riveting place to be, but it was an interesting industry-related event. Plus, like I said, my mentor was based in Red Deer, so it gave me the opportunity to do both things at the same time. Some of the other events that some of the other groups or other candidates took part in was National Cattlemen's Beef Association Conference down in the southern states, ALTAT Conference. I threw Farm Management Canada Conference on here. Anybody that is interested in business and financial management should check that organization out. They've got lots of stuff online. And unfortunately, I missed their conference just because of timing, and I wasn't able to go, but I would have liked to do that one. One of our CYL group was down to Uruguay for World Angus Forum. And then there's always opportunity with CCA and things like some of their meetings in Ottawa and that sort of thing. So the Alberta Beef Industry Conference, it's actually a pretty impressive. If you've ever gone to the Manitoba Beef Producers Conference, it's not quite the same at all. It's much more similar to the national conference, actually. And it was a great opportunity to meet lots of folks in the industry, especially being in Alberta. Other CYLers were there as well, so there was some network to start with. But a great opportunity to meet people and pick their brains. You see Brian's contact information. Anybody that wasn't quick enough to get it down before he finished there, he was one of the guys I managed to sit down and chat with for a bit while we were out there. the GHG guru. Anybody interested in greenhouse gas emissions and the environmental impact of the beef industry should definitely check him out at GHG Guru on Twitter. And he had a great presentation. And then, like I said, I was able to spend an afternoon at MNP's offices and sit down in the conference room with Scott and some of the staff there and go through some of the tools they have around business benchmarking and planning and that sort of thing. So it was definitely a valuable experience. The Cattlemen's Young Leaders has their own spring forum for CYL candidates. This year it was back in Alberta. So we traveled to Crova Feeders on day one in Acme or near Acme. Basically a brand new feedlot feeding Holsteins. We got to do a bit of a tour there, have a chat with the nutrition specialists they have. We got to sit down with Zoetis and talk about the products they have, and they brought in a cattle handling expert where we got to go down to the facility there and work, basically treat a pen of cattle for them. So they had incoming cattle that we ran through. We split into groups and did a cattle handling experience, plus we did all of the treatments and that sort of thing, which was interesting, especially if you don't come from a cow-calf operation. I could see huge value in that. Day two was where it got pretty interesting. The Hawksworth Young Chefs is a group of young chefs across the country that vie for international competition, vying for a $10,000 scholarship and a chance to work in a restaurant somewhere in the world of their choice, as far as I can understand, so for a year. Quite an interesting group of guys, and basically they were in their year trying to learn more about the beef industry, so they spent 2 days with us traveling around the Calgary area. And I guess our job was to learn from them as well as try to help them understand how the beef industry works. We started that tour out at Sauter Glen Ranches, talking about the genetics of the industry, purebred side of things, and honestly probably wasn't the best place to start them out because that's pretty technical. But we really realized at what level those guys, and these are the guys serving the beef product to consumers, and they really their understanding of the industry. Got to show them there some calves on feed and some feed pens and that sort of thing, and have a good discussion with some Ducks Unlimited staff about conservation and the environmental impacts of beef. Then we went out to Doug and Tim Ray's ranch, where we looked at the cow-calf side of the business and explained to them sort of how that works. And afterwards we got to tour a native pasture tour, focusing on wild edibles. Now, I've been on a few pasture tours in my day, and this is the first time I've ever gone in and looking for what's edible for humans and not for cattle. But it was actually really interesting, and obviously that was catered to the chefs in the group and what plants, and give them an understanding of the diversity that's out there. And then we got to hang out with them that evening and kind of get to know them a little more on a personal level. Day three, talk about pushing your personal boundaries. We went down to the historic Bar U Ranch in Alberta and did the Chuck Wagon Chili Challenge, basically a cooking competition where we were paired with one of the chefs and did a campfire chili cook-off with celebrity judges. It was a little out of my comfort zone, but definitely an interesting experience. How am I for time, Mary Jean? 5 minutes? Okay. I will show this video if it works. This is a highlight of that event that the Cattlemen Young Leaders program put together.
We've got one of our Hawksworth Young Chef competitors paired up with one of our young leaders in the beef industry. What I see there is great mentorship. We're creating the future leaders of our industry.
Set up one of the chefs with one of the CYLs, and these are going to be your workstations. There's 2 teams to a table. So the important thing,
it's really neat to see these people come from very different backgrounds and how they can actually come together and bond over the fact that we both love beef from different perspectives.
We provide them with proper windbreaks and give them the proper diets. Because of the way they metabolize their feed, they actually produce a lot of heat doing that.
Everybody gets it from like grocery store and everything, and there's nobody between us to make the connection and make make a stock like as we do today, for example. It's outdoor. You can see like people love their lifestyle. I didn't really have that conception about it. As you said earlier, you do it because you love it, because like, you have your full-time job and you still breed cows. I mean, that's amazing.
Speaking to the cattlemen's young leaders, they're passionate about the land, about their animals that they're raising. Yeah, they just love the product that they work with, and that's like, again, the same thing with Abe and his butchery, the same thing with us in our food. It's an absolute for the product that you have.
I think it's also neat because the supply chain is so diverse, as we're learning here today, like going from part A producers to the chefs here, and that common connection is that beef and the love of beef, or they enjoy cooking it as well.
Fire's pretty hot. I'm going to add the liquid now. We got some good caramelization of the vegetables.
And I think it's a really great opportunity to tell the Canadian beef story in a peer sort of setting with having people the same age. I'm hoping that they can see the product through different eyes. I hope that they can look at what they're producing in the field and kind of look at it from the chef's perspective and be able to see what it's going to look like at the end of the line.
The versatility of beef is tremendous. I think sometimes the limitations of the consumer or the home cook and their hesitation in terms of their comfort in the kitchen prevents them from exploring it enough. And so, an opportunity like this to show the producers and the chefs working together to better understand how ingredients perform in this kind of cooking environment here outdoors, but to understand cooking technique and how you can achieve excellent results with different cuts of beef.
The technique I used to cook chili here is the same technique we used to build curry.
And we had a lot of fun. Our
team name is Cowboy
East
Curry.
meets West, yeah, and then we made our cowboy curry.
I never cooked in this pot. She taught me how to use the pot, how to set the fire, because I never done that before. She taught me that. I taught her something, just like sharing our ideas to each other. It's really fun. It's really great experience.
And hopefully now, we're gonna stay friends. And I go down to Toronto. I can't wait to have him cook for me, and we can have that contact. And it's been really good.
So that was just one of the experiences of the program, and like I said, that definitely pushes your boundaries when you're not used to being in that sort of setting at all, but definitely interesting. And then to end the year, we went back to Calgary for the Canadian Beef Industry Conference. This was where their new group of CYLs came in for their selections, and I was asked this year to take part in that as one of the judges, and it was really interesting to be kind of on the flip side this time, roaming the room, listening to all their opinions and thoughts and trying to score them for their chance to participate in the competition. But a great opportunity to meet the new group and another chance to talk to some people you didn't know. Bottom picture there shows Scott, my mentor, passing me a diploma for the program, and just a couple other highlights there were one of our other CYL members was Megan Clifton, and her family was awarded the Environmental Stewardship Award. They're from Kiramias, BC, and Ducks Unlimited Canada had a pretty good presentation there about working with the beef industry as well. So I won't play this video, but anybody that's got any interest in the CYL program, take a look at this video. It kind of gives you an idea, but the basic message here is you don't have to be a cattle producer to take part. I was surprised to get there, and there was accountants, and there was, you name it, anybody that has a connection and interest in the industry is welcome to apply. So feel free to look this up. This is Ben Wilson with Storybrokers, and Ben was a CYL as well a couple years ago. And anybody kicking around tonight should check out the Guardians of the Grasslands film. He's the man behind that as well. So, and with that, thanks everybody, and I would encourage you to pass this message along if there's some people that you know of that might qualify or might be interested in the program. And I'm always happy to answer any questions. You can find me on Twitter at Tyler Fewings, or look me up however you can. I'm never too far away. Thanks.